but you're making it work somehow. And
I
that's what
mean,
really matters.
that's Teller's brand all over.
Hmm.
Teller went to the University of Starfleet Online, and he doesn't know that there's a difference.
Yeah, good. Well, the diploma just says Starfleet Academy at the end, so
Yeah,
is there really a
it's just
difference?
there's a bunch of words in between that in really, really small font.
What's the ITT tech of the Federation like? What do they train people to do?
Ooh, well, I mean, reroute the plasma flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always scrub plasma manifolds.
Oh.
Wasn't that what they had?
Yeah.
Wasn't that what they had the EMH doing?
Yep. And
Go scrub those manifolds for some reason. Apparently, in
turbo shaft lengthening.
Well, I'm just saying, apparently in our post-scarcity society, we don't have something that can adequately scrub the manifold. I feel like that's a challenge that could be overcome with that level of engineering. I feel like the self-scrubbing manifold could be Teller's huge contribution of the fleet. No, it just scrubs itself. It's really easy.
Incredible. You'd be the hero of every engineering department. It's all fun and games till someone takes a few thousand millicochrons to the face, right?
Oh, yeah, and then it's just funny.
But anyway, folks, you've found yourselves in another episode of the PADDcast. I'm your host, Lazarus, and with me, as always,
Jeff Teller, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to be here. Hello
Bravo.
To the 118 fleet and all you fantastic folks out there. We have done it. We have made it to episode 3. The search for the PADDcast, if you will.
We've established a pattern at this point, too. Three's a pattern.
We've 3 times. I mean, we've done it it's amazing. It's you and I, and we talk about things, and apparently people enjoy that, which is it's nice.
It is nice. It's very validating. It's a nice space to be in.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking, is that there's so much good about Star Trek, but what about the bad? And not the bad episodes, because there's that too. But I mean the antagonists.
Oh yeah.
The bad guys.
Oh, subject close to my heart. I'm a big believer in the church of the competent bad guy. Because I feel a competent bad guy, a properly menacing bad guy, is much more satisfying to your story, because they present a genuine challenge, a genuine threat, not just an exaggerated, we're going to defeat this broad spectacle of racism by the end of the episode.
Right. Yeah.
Something more nuanced. And I think that can lead to your most interesting stories.
I completely agree. Although it is also it's fun to have a ridiculous villain once in a while too.
Oh, 100%. I mean, ridiculous villains 100% have their place. It's like just different flavors along the villainy spectrum. But even your ridiculous villain, if they're competent in their ridiculousness, that lends weight to them, and it makes them that much more fun when they're just completely absurd.
Like the horrible gray clown in Voyager.
Oh,
Michael McKean? Yeah.
Who pulls an amazing performance out of what should have been a laughably bad episode. And it's haunting.
See, I kind of felt like it stayed laughably bad, and I felt like Michael McKean was wasted opportunity. Voyager has a few of those.
I think he has his moments of genuinely unsettling behavior. When he's settling in on Harry Kim with the scalpel, that was pretty bad.
Yeah. I guess it was really just the end of the episode where it kind of felt like the writers realized, we don't actually have anywhere to go with this, so
we kind of
the personification of fear.
Well, what's amazing is it is a holodeck episode. It's just somebody else's holodeck, bro.
Right.
Once.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, at a certain point, you've got to start asking if species were like, hey, do your holodecks ever work? Or is it just constantly spitting out like your literary bad guys as living things? Does yours produce a lot of foppish British villains? Because that's what we seem to be getting out of ours. Bad.
Yeah. Ooh. So villainy in Star Trek ranges from things like your Harry Mudd.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then on through, I don't know, like it's not. This might be kind of cheating, but maybe the Romulans as a whole, I feel like, are an excellent foil.
Just space racist.
Right, I know. Bad. I'd like to talk about that too. Honestly, is
on a very special podcast?
Yes, but
where we address space racism.
Well, as a brief aside, current Trek is starting to push back against that. So, like, oh shoot, I'm blanking on Lower Decks Orion character. What is her name? Tawny
Newsome, I believe. Is Tawny Newsome. Okay, the voiceover actor. Yeah.
Okay.
Who does a Star Trek podcast of her own?
Really?
And is apparently a fan. What I've read about her is that she is genuinely into Star Trek and has enjoyed it for a very, very long time.
Awesome. Her character as an Orion, specific. I mean, it's kind of an aside in an episode, but specifically points out, like, whoa, hey, not all Orions are.
Oh, right. You're talking
monstrous
about
villains.
Tendi.
Oh, Tendi, thank you.
Yeah, Tendi, who Tawny Newsome, I'm pretty sure, does Beckett Mariner.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Let's see. And it is Noelle Wells does the voice for Tendi, apparently.
Excellent. But
and now I know that.
So, I mean, that is, you're totally right to point out that it's enforcing, like, racial stereotyping. I mean, Star Trek does that.
Very much so. They paint with a broad brush.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's in part a limitation of the format when you have to get through establishing your new species, explaining their core conflict, and resolving it all in 54 minutes.
Yeah,
it's a lot to do.
It is. But okay, so aside from cheating with the Romulans, I mean, the answer is Gul Dukat, right?
Oh, for our most interesting bad guy,
our peak Star Trek villainy,
peak Star Trek villain. I mean, speaking of Lower Decks, I got to give a shout out to Bloimer's suggestion, which is Roket Danar. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, and there's no reason that you should, I want to make that abundantly clear.
I recognize
no reason
the name.
Anyone should know who this is off the top of their head.
Okay.
This was a villain that was featured in one episode, Next Generation. He was a genetically engineered super soldier who had been undergone a brutal series of psychological conditioning that made him not only a peak tactician, but in every way a super soldier. And him and his buddies were being held against their will on some kind of a moon where they were locked up because they were soldiers and they were dangerous to society.
And they just kept fighting each other.
No. That's a DS9 one. I know the one you're talking about.
Oh, that is DS9.
No. This was way back. James Cromwell was actually in this episode as a as like a small secondary character, president of a planet or something. So Lower Decks pulled that reference out when they were having the greatest villain of all time conversation. I believe Mariner's suggestion was Khan. That's very understandable. That's the great Khan, the most scenery chewing bad guy in Star Trek history.
But Wrath of Khan, love it. That's an uncontroversial opinion.
It's an amazing movie.
Khan's really not a great villain.
Well, he's an incredibly theatrical villain That's the best part of Khan.
He's great to watch.
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
That's 100%. But he's like he's not super competent at all. Like for all really. His, I'm a superior being and I have wonderful hair. Like that's great. And like I understand you shave your chest and you want us all to know that. That's cool.
It's very smooth.
Yeah, it's actually clearly. And is that baby oil or what? Okay, whatever. But, beyond that, the plan was never very good. And, he really was the classic monologuing, I'm going to drag this out as much as possible and ignore every logical reason to just kill my nemesis.
Poor Joaquin just kept begging him, like, please, you've got everything you need. That guy
was right the entire time. The guy we just kill him. We just kill him now. It's the scene from Austin Powers. Like let's just shoot him. Let's just shoot him right now. I can go get a gun and we can shoot him and it's done. There is a fantastic resource online, and it's called the unofficial 100 rules of if I ever become an evil overlord.
Oh, okay.
If it's more than 100 rules, by the way. So you just naturally. Right from there, you should understand the type of thing this is. And this was assembled by the group Brain some many years ago. And it was all the things that your standard Bond, sci-fi, the Emperor, whoever, ridiculous villain just misses. And it's just like, what? So I remember one of the rules was something like, I will have my plan reviewed by my council of advisors, which will include at least one 5-year-old child. And any problems that 5-year-old child can point out, those are addressed before we move ahead with the plan.
Excellent.
Just like as a real basic level of like, if someone who uses crayons can see a problem in this, we probably shouldn't do it. We probably shouldn't get the guys in jumpsuits yet.
So what is it that makes a Star Trek villain a Star Trek villain? Because that's sometimes a complaint, particularly of like the newer movies where it's just like, this doesn't feel like an appropriate villain or antagonist for Star Trek.
So if I get the notes correctly, a big element of villainy, or I should say antagonism, because that's really what we're talking about. Is you don't have to, and for the folks at home that are unclear on the difference, an antagonist is the foil to your protagonist in a story. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are a villain or that they are evil or that they are motivated by, horrible forces or whatever. It simply means that their interests are in opposition to the protagonists.
Exactly.
And how you play that out is very important. In the case of Star Trek, a lot of times that while there may be a force of arms challenged, my ship is bigger than yours and can blow yours up kind of thing.
Yeah.
The conflict is based on either a basic moral or philosophical principle between the two species at arms. There's always that moment where Kirk or Picard or Spock steps in and is like, yeah, but see, through the power of us all working together, that is how we have defeated this, and you guys suck. And, hooray, we warp off into the sunset.
Right.
It's why Gul Dukat works so well as a Star Trek antagonist, because he's one of the very few ones that we got a hugely complete arc on. We got a incredibly rich story with him. So we got to see the antagonism at a lot of different layers, from surprisingly reasonable to outright mustache twirling, glowing red eyes.
Yes, summoning demons from hell to do a Dragon Ball Z fight on the promenade.
Literally, right? Like, I mean, there was a demon soul. Let's be clear on that. Like, I believe we called it the
Pa-wraiths.
Well, right, a Pa-wraith. I was slipping my. I was going with fire wraiths, but they're from the fire caves.
That's right. Yes,
but they are Pa-wraiths.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of those got stuck in Keiko, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That made O'Brien's week just a living hell at one point. That poor guy.
Poor Miles O'Brien. Everything in that man's life is an antagonist for his character.
The door to his quarters is an antagonist for Miles O'Brien.
The holodeck.
Everything in the universe's objectives run counter to those of Miles O'Brien. Not villainous, just counter.
Nope. My most cherished episodes, I think, or rather antagonists in Star Trek is when it even gets like more abstract than that. You know, I'm thinking of like Darmok and Jalad.
Oh yeah.
The antagonist is just like
perfect example of a non-villainous antagonist.
Sure. I mean, I would even argue that like I'm not even entirely sure that the Captain Dathan, was that his name?
Yes. Wow. Yeah. 10 points to Gryffindor for you, sir.
Thank you.
I do not think I would have pulled Dathan out of the air like that. Folks, this is the real deal on the other end of the microphone here.
I have approximate knowledge of many things.
Oh, there you go.
I don't think that Captain Dathan was necessarily an antagonist to Picard. Certainly at the beginning, you know, there was that level of antagonism. But if I'm recalling the episode correctly, the antagonism between them ends relatively quickly, and they begin to
it
build
takes
a bridge.
Minute.
Yeah,
because you know there's a good bit of time on the planet where Picard is rightfully pissed off that he was kidnapped and dragged down to a planet and a guy threw a knife at him.
Yeah.
You know, he was polite about throwing the knife at him, but he did throw a knife at him.
Right.
You know, that's genuinely speaking, you know, it's not a good opening.
No.
Especially when they seem real interested in having you pick the knife up. Like, that's not a good sub. That's not like, hey, here's a new knife. I hope you enjoy this nice knife.
I just got this at the mall.
Right.
What do you think?
I got a 2-pack. Here is one of them. I thought you would like it. It's a nice knife. It's very rare that happens. I mean, it happens, you know, in space, but it's rare.
Okay, I would like to derail us because I feel like this is very important to explore.
Please.
So, who in the Star Trek universe, if they were here and now, who would be most likely to be a mall ninja?
So, Star Trek universe, they were alive here and now.
Any character.
Who is most likely to be a mall ninja?
You familiar with this concept?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Just making sure.
Let's see.
Because, I mean...
Okay, yeah. Take me through yours while I think about mine. I want to give this a proper think.
Well, there's a lot of different directions that it could go. Like, my initial gut instinct says Riker, but that's mostly just because anything can be made funny with him.
I mean, Riker himself has become a meme. Like, he is a mood at this point. It's
a vibe, really.
Right. And I mean, and that's fine. Like, I mean, the same thing happened with Kirk. Like, Kirk became like a swaggering meme of himself at some point during the 70s, and William Shatner was completely fine with that. So he just kind of leaned into it.
Yep. Okay. So TOS era, Mall Ninja, 100% Chekhov.
Oh, God.
I mean, he's the youngest of the crew. He's impressionable. He's excitable. It's got to be Chekhov. And then TNG, I think of the main cast, it's going to be Data. and I will not take questions on this one.
Wow.
It's definitely Data. He just has a deep fascination with it. He thinks it's fascinating.
He's just really into, like, it's like an anthropology class for him.
Well, and there's the whole dexterity component too, right? So he's able to like flip around the butterfly knife with the blunt edge because, you know, it's being sold at the mall. And he can do that really quick.
Like his mom not going to let him have it sharpened.
Right, exactly. And also Gowron. Gowron
but
has shurikens
like in the show.
But Gowron has shurikens stuffed into his big cool council jacket thing.
Oh yeah, 1,000,000%. Like that guy is walking around with a cutlery store at all times. And that's the one thing that, you know, if you really want to take TNG down a peg, like every time he walked around, it should have sounded like you were dropping all the pots and pans in your kitchen.
Do you see this, Worf?
Ka-chank, ka-chank, ka-chank.
This is a collapsible bow staff, Worf. Watch.
I got it for $39.95, Worf. It was 3 easy payments. God.
Voyager, it's Neelix.
Oh no! Voyager, it's Seska.
Oh yeah, okay, that's fair. Yeah, it's probably Seska.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, and she's like really angry about it too. Like she's somehow personally offended, but she has no reason to be. Like she has never gone without frozen yogurt in her life.
In Deep Space Nine, it's Eddington. I mean, that's just self-evident.
But that's basically cheating. I mean, honestly, Deep Space Nine, I think it's Rom.
Ooh, it is Rom.
You know, very easily influenced.
Yeah.
And he does have that engineering background.
Yeah. Rom has gone full weeaboo, though. I mean, let's be real. This is not so much about like being totally cool and totally tough, but just more of like deep weeaboo hell. That's where he is.
You actually made me. Oh, God.
Got him.
I have Diet Coke in my sinuses now, lads. Oh, it's fizzy. Oh, woo. Oh.
But he has his redemption arc when he tries to organize a workers' movement, so that's great, you know?
The only thing you have to lose is your chains and your giant ear prosthetics, which must be uncomfortable. I liked Rom. I mean, honestly, I know the buffoon brother is an overused trope, but I enjoyed him. I did. I'm okay with most of those Ferengi episodes. I really am. I know a lot of DS9 gets like some deserved flack for those episodes, but I like them.
Oh, Moogie. The only Deep Space Nine episode
did you make me think of that raisiny woman?
The only Deep Space Nine episode.
Think of that raisiny woman.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Is the one where they all get sucked into a weird D&D game?
Oh yeah. Oh, Move Along Home.
Yeah,
that's like season 1, episode 2 or 3. It's amazing how
pretty early. Yeah.
It's amazing the show survived.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Oh yeah. That one is very difficult to watch because
deeply strange.
And what's funny is it feels low budget, like they just didn't have any ideas of like what to do.
Yeah,
with the species, but they built sets and had makeup and stuff. Like it seemed like they did this on purpose.
Yeah, not oh no, we're out of budget.
Yeah, no, they're just like this is what they meant to do. Somebody looked at that and was like, "Yep, we're gonna have our space heroes that are 3 episodes into the show doing hopscotch."
Yes, the kids love it.
It's gonna be it's gonna be huge.
I genuinely choose to believe that episode was like, whoever wrote that episode, that was like adapted from a homebrew D&D campaign or something.
Ooh, yeah,
it was too on the spot.
The aliens in that race even dress like wizards.
Right?
Oh.
Yeah, the other thing that going back to like antagonism and villainy,
sure,
and not so great episodes. How about that Voyager episode with Jason Alexander?
Oh my god, that's one of my favorites. He's just the worst bad guy.
He's terrible.
Oh my god. It is genuinely a favorite Voyager episode of mine because of how patently absurd his performance is.
Yeah,
the minute he shows up.
I understand it, he sought out the show.
Beautiful. Like it would have been a big deal. Like I think he was still on Seinfeld at that
Absolutely,
point.
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been a huge deal.
And he seemed like he was the same show
that can boast that it had the first televised performance of the actor The Rock.
Yeah. Rock the Dwayne Johnson.
That's where it all started, folks.
Yeah.
Every Fast and Furious you can trace back to Takaze. Takaze.
Something like that.
Something like that. It was an excuse for The Rock to be a space wrestler.
Mm-hmm. And throw Jerry Ryan around.
Oh. Yeah, so his life has gone okay.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, it turns out being on Star Trek was really good for his career.
Yeah, that's solid right there.
So, okay. We've given space to best recurring villains or antagonists, I should say.
Sure.
What are some best one-off antagonists? Is there anybody that like really sticks in your mind? It's like, man, that was good.
All right. So,
and if you need a moment to think, I'm happy to.
Yeah, well, I mean,
some time.
It's interesting because generally speaking, I find the antagonists that have at least some element of complexity about, how they're in opposition to the Federation, that's a big part of what makes them interesting to me. So it's not just a like, hey, we can shoot at them and then we can get out of here and everything's okay.
Right.
Like TOS was big for that. We're fighting the Gorn and we're fighting the Klingons and we're, fighting those sneaky Romulans, which all were very broad, kind of Cold War analogies to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not worth it. It's
the Yangs and the Cones.
Oh, come on. I mean, like literally the Constitution. But
it was so much. It was a lot. It was a lot.
E pluribus. No, you idiot. Just let a white person explain it to you.
Yeah.
Fine. Oh. I believe in that episode, Spock describes people of what I think is supposed to broadly be Chinese origin as Adriatic.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I think that's the 60s. It's we've made some progress since then.
Yeah,
I mean, not a lot, but some.
Yeah.
But sorry. So I mean, best one-off villains. It's I'm trying to go through them in my head. I didn't mind and he's not. What's funny is he's not a one-off because he shows up twice. But I think it was Damon Togg, the guy who was picking on Picard in TNG.
Oh yeah. Other than Tomalak?
No, not Tomalak. That's the Romulan. The Ferengi.
Who
held
you killed my
against
son.
What's that?
Didn't like Picard kill his son or something like that in like season 1?
And then he gave him the Stargazer back, but it had a hypno orb in it or something.
Yeah.
Right, that whole thing.
That whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and then he like genetically engineers him up a son who's not actually his son. Spoilers.
Oh,
I guess, for this 20-year-old episode of more 30
more. Yeah, a lot more. Yeah.
But I found him at least interesting because he had at least a fairly legitimate gripe.
Yeah.
And this was back when the Ferengi were not the kind of fun, haha, these guys do capitalism characters of DS9. This was when they were still basically pirates and were fairly aggressive about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They take over the Enterprise once.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our introduction to them is they like stole some stuff from an outpost and split.
Yeah. And they had those like laser whip things.
Oh,
that didn't really make much sense at all.
Yeah, that's what you need in space is a laser whip.
Mm-hmm.
That is important for space. They had to have gone to an enormous amount of work to make the weapon look like that.
Right.
Like after figuring out like how to make a laser gun, they then made a laser gun look like that.
And people make fun of the hand phasers for how hard it is to aim them by pressing down with your thumb, and the Ferengi got a whip.
Well, and why would you? There's not even like a sight on this. Why would you do that? It doesn't make a lick of sense. And the answer is because the thing actually targets itself. You point it in the general direction of the bad guy. It takes care of the rest because that's how Federation weapons work. Because Federation employs 24th century Apple technology.
Yeah, of course.
Like I think Kira even made a joke about that at one point. Like she compares like the Cardassian disruptor rifle to a Federation phaser rifle, and she's like, it always works. It's the AK-47 of the space rifle world. It has 16 settings, and it's flip up scope and does 47 different things, but also it's fragile and weird.
That is true. Yeah. I gotta say, my favorite one-off villain, who, as you were talking, I realized actually isn't one-off anymore, but we're gonna ignore that, is Bruce Maddox.
Bruce Maddox?
The antagonist from Measure of a Man.
Yeah, I'm okay. That's a deep pull.
I feel like that's one of the best episodes of Star Trek, period. I think it's excellent.
For context, ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Maddox was originally introduced in Next Generation. I want to say season 2.
Mm-hmm.
In an episode where he, as an engineer working for a division of Starfleet pursuing android technology, tried to forcibly reassign data to his control and then submit to medical experiments that would have risked Data's life.
Yeah.
This obviously sets up a major plot line that follows Data through for the rest of his existence. There's a court battle over Data's right to choose, his right to personhood.
Yeah.
It is I believe a seminal episode of Next Generation.
Yeah, and it ended up being a kind of like a major catalyst for Picard, which is partially what made Picard so confusing, because it seemed to directly contradict the episode that they kind of based the story whatever.
Yeah, see, if we start talking about Picard, the antagonist
we'll be here all
is
night.
the writers of Picard, and
it's Alex Kurtzman. Hey, did you ever play Mass Effect?
What's that?
Did you ever play those games, Mass Effect?
Oh yes, absolutely, loved them.
I think the writers of Picard did too.
Yeah, well,
because it's pretty much
maybe the third one before it got patched.
That's
that's the That's the tragic element.
I was just thinking about the ancient artifact that you touch and it might ruin your brain if you touch it. And when you touch it, you see flashes of horrifying imagery of technology and flesh being forced together, and then big monsters from outside the galaxy come in to harvest.
Movie. So, it's...
Does it?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Little Lego guy touches a Lego piece, and he has a horrifying vision of a man reaching out to him and sights he can't understand.
Oh, huh. All right, fair enough.
So Emmett from the Lego movie is in the Zot Vash, just so you guys know. We've just blessed that with canon. And that is where canon is a flexible thing. Now I've become the antagonist.
No. But the reason that I love Maddox is that his villainy stems from mere ignorance, right? He doesn't understand that Data is a person because he hasn't been around Data, right?
And going back to my point from earlier, the conflict is a moral, philosophical one. It's not a conflict of arms. It's not a conflict of authority. Like, those elements can be in there, but this is what the conflict truly is. This moral quandary that we're trying to explore.
Yeah. And demonstrating like the critical importance of like liberally offering personhood to anybody that is close to it, because the stakes are oftentimes like oppression, slavery, destruction.
Right, because the trade-off is a horror that we understand, that we've seen time and time again, that's the important part of the conversation between Guinan and Picard. And Whoopi Goldberg speaking as the only recurring African American character other than Geordi on the show.
Yeah,
that's a powerful moment where she has to speak plainly about. So this is basically slavery. It's just, as Rick and Morty put it, slavery with more steps.
Yeah. So in that particular scene, even, I mean, she definitely points it out to him, but she lets Picard have that realization.
Oh, right.
And he says, "Oh no, you're talking about slavery." And she's like, "Well, I don't know.
No, I'm not. I wasn't alluding to that at all."
Yeah.
With my big hat.
It's
just sitting over here with my big hat. Love those things.
Oh, it's so good. But
don't make a bit of sense, and I loved them.
But that's why I love Maddox, is that he's kind of a jerk, but it just stems from ignorance, and he is willing to, begrudgingly, but still willing to learn and to get to know Data, and to, through the process of the trial and outside the trial, and just be like, "Oh, you are a person. Well, then obviously I'm not going to do this. This is a terrible idea." And I mean, some of it is a little bit like putting a nice bow on it and solving the problem, and that's a nice thing to see. But it's that idea of like, we can solve our problems through talking and understanding. And like you said, we don't need phasers. We don't need authority figures. We just need to communicate.
And I like that they even build on that theme, where there's an episode several seasons later and Data is writing a letter to that guy.
Yeah, for Data's day.
Yeah, and takes him through the events of the day so that he can better understand the type of thing that he is and what his existence is like, what his perceptions on the world is. Because now to Maddox, that's important. It's not just like Data's a sensor probe with a voice. He's a person with an individual personality that is distinct, and his own perceptions on the events around him.
Exactly. And now, but I've just recognized that we've been fools, Teller. We've been damned fools all along. The biggest antagonist is the holodeck.
Oh.
I mean, you even alluded to it earlier. It's the holodeck. The holodeck is the main villain.
Yeah, I mean, 1,000,000%. I mean, but if we're going there, I mean, the biggest antagonist is whoever doesn't install surge protectors behind all that. Like, those things are just bombs. Like, I don't understand why. Like, it's basic electrical engineering. Like, we should be able to handle this. But
well, you see, the EPS conduits and those buttons are actually, you gotta have a lot of power go to those buttons.
They lost that technology in the eugenics wars, and they just never got like Radio Shack surge protective technology back.
Nope. LED is gone. Incandescent is forgotten. That's just like straight up
can't
plasma.
Get a radio control car on Earth.
Nope.
Oh, hurts. Yeah. If you need D batteries, look elsewhere. Laz and I are both revealing that we are old, that we were making jokes about Radio Shack, and that we both understand that. But I believe that store has been closed for at least, 10 years?
Probably something like that at this point. Yeah. They're all vape shops now.
Of course. Well, they were like mobile phone shops before that, and probably like beeper shops before that. Get off my space lawn.
Well, folks, that just about does it. I mean, what did we learn today? I'm not really sure, but we had fun along the way. Indeed. And isn't that all that matters?
Yeah, and I think we can all agree that while there are any number of interesting antagonists across the spectrum of your challenges, your dramatic tension in Star Trek, it's about what you bring to it. It's about how you play up the conflicts between the characters. We've seen small characters have huge impacts on the narrative of the shows. And it's very true when you get into the writing of your characters for 118. You don't need to blow up the volcano and unleash the laser sharks to make a powerful moment with an antagonist.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and there's a lot of different ways to approach it. So if you get the opportunity, have fun with it. Find a voice for your antagonist that works for you, that doesn't necessarily have to mean mustache twisting villain. If that's what you're into, be into that. But if not, maybe you want to do something more subtle. Maybe you want to do something even bigger because that's just how you want to do.
We need more supervillains. That's what we need.
Oh, yeah. I mean, capes. We need to work a cape onto a character. I feel like I haven't done that enough.
How did Gul Dukat not have a cape? Now that I'm thinking about it.
That is true. That is the one thing that outfit was missing. But then you wouldn't have gotten to see his like BMX armor.
That's true.
Looked rad. He could skip chest day because like his shirt got there 4 minutes before he did.
Well, folks, I think that's going to do it for us.
I think on that horrifying image, we must go. But this has been Jeff Teller
and Lazarus Davis.
And we have been here for the third episode of your Starbase 118 PADDcast. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for listening. We will be here next month, same time, same channel.